Okay, back again. I got some of this seat done yesterday. I actually made a mistake somewhere along the line and cut myself short, so I had to add a piece in. But I thought I'd be a bit funky and put the back end of the leather. So you've got the front that you're looking at, and then there's the back, and it's a bit suede-y. So I've added the back in as a suede piece. Don't worry about the mould on here. I'll clean that off with some sugar soap or something that's not too abrasive. And there's a couple of wrinkles, and I'll just hit them with a steam iron or whatever. That's what I've got so far. So that's what the pattern's going to be. So your butt sits here, and probably just like a pillow or something in the middle, or a little box for your phone or whatever. But that's what I'm going with. That's the top. Little bit of it's a bit of a weird headspace trying to do this from scratch because there was no pattern at all. So if you can imagine that I'm just working with a blank canvas, and I've got basically this pile of crazy here. And I use the term pile of crazy because it's just a pile of crazy. Every piece is a different size. And but it's okay. I'll work with it. You do end up with a lot of mess, obviously, when you got a lot of junk floating around. But that's okay. Check out the texture on these seats. Isn't that 1950s? So that's my piping there. That's actually electrical wire inside that. So come out nice. So yeah, anyway, and I'll just show my trim. I haven't had these out in a long time. This is my camera seems to be a bit dirty, but this is the trim for my car, one of my cars that I've got sort of on hold, and that wooden panel there is French polished, and that's cut from the root of an Australian native wattle eucalypt tree that lives in the Mallee in the desert in Western Australia, and it's absolutely beautiful. The figure in it is just amazing. Unfortunately, the light and my camera's not doing it much justice right now, but this is all hand made, and out of bits and pieces. And that was actually, you won't believe it, you know those weird clocks you get out of like the base? They basically cut a slab off a piece of wood and it's just like a disc. Then they put the clock numbers on it. Well, that's what this was. And what I did is I set up my circular saw in the most uncompromising manner that I could. Made myself up a slight table saw, and you could probably catch it there. It's got fire in it. It's really actually very beautiful. And that's French polished. That's using traditional French polishing techniques. And I just basically cut myself slithers from it. And you know, all of the doors for that car are set like that. And I've got some imported, I went all out and bought veneer from an importer of Italian burl walnut veneer. And I don't mean veneer in the plastic sense where they just veneer stuff on like this. I mean the real stuff they use on Bentleys. So I got the same stuff that they use on Bentleys, and that's going to and they're numbered too, so they're all in a booklet. Cost me a lot of money, but it was worth it, and that'll be for that car. But anyway, that's where I am here on this. I like the suede look. I wanted to put this fillet in, and then I realised that I had to slice this in half and then add a piece, and it was a slightly different colour, so I thought, you know, why not? I'll just try it and see what it looks like. So that's what I'm going to go with, and the idea is to get it knocked down as quick as possible. So I'll bring you back when I get some more done. Okay, welcome back. So I'm just going to show you sort of the process of what's happening here. So what I do is I go through the junk and I work out the sizes that I need. So that's the sizes that I need: 4 pieces times 15.5 centimeters, 2 pieces times 13.5 of the leather. And then obviously they're all a certain length. They're 44 centimeters. So that's 40 centimeters in length plus a 2 centimeter overlap, because at the top and the bottom there's a lot more stress, so I want the stitch coming right in. And I may even add some vinyl on the inside of that stitch as well, just to strengthen it up. So what I then do is I match it up with all of the vinyl pieces, and they've all been marked. I use my tailor's chalk, best invention ever, that stuff. It doesn't like working on the leather though, on the shiny side, but that's okay. And then I go through and I use a stapler, right? So I don't use pins, I use a stapler. It's a lot quicker, and they don't go through your foot if you stand on them, which is not nice, and it's happened. So I just go through and line up all the marks, trying not to make a mistake, which I do make. I put this one in backwards twice, I think. So that green stuff is just a little bit of the ink from something or other that's leached onto that. I think if I get a bit of sandpaper, or maybe even just a blade, I might be able to just scour that off. Yeah, that'll come away. So I'm not too worried about that. And some of this leather's a little dirty, and you know, there's a couple of little score marks here and there. I'm not too concerned about that. This is not going to look absolutely immaculate. It's going to have character, and I'm okay with that, because a little bit of character is, you know, the spice of life. So I'll just lay it up there to show you what's going on before I sew it up. So this is the back end. This is what you see from underneath. And most of this stuff I've given myself a 2 centimeter pleat, except for some of the leather where it was very thin and I had to go 1 centimeter. I don't like doing that, but as you can see with the vinyl, I've got plenty. That's the stitch line there, and I've got all of that extra, so I can come back and trim it up, or I can lay it flat and then stitch it again. I can do a nice Frenched stitch. So that's there upside down. You can see it's a whole lot of crazy. So staple, 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 and then it's stitched and then stapled. So I've got to run through and do all this now, and then I'll have the seat base and the seat back without the surrounds. So then I'm going to work on the surrounds with whatever's left, and I think I should be okay. There's a lot of scrap, but I've still got these 2 seat backs, which are the main ones, but they were quite worn, so I've just left them to the side for the moment. I may even be able to get a door card out of each one yet, so a nice worn, beaten up door card. So anyway, I'll just plough on with this, and I suppose I'll bring you back. Alright, back again, welcome back. What I got going on now is piping time. So just trying to get it so you can see what's going on. I've just just stapled it on. It's not where it's supposed to be. But so what I'm trying to explain is this is the seat top, and then I've got the piece here that wraps around the front, and then so this piece, that piece, and that all have to be sewn together, and this will just hang out like that. And then there's also the sides, and I've just sewn them on. I've just cut them out and sewn them on. So I've got quite a long piece here now. You can see it's like a big zigzag strip, and it goes for about 50,000 kilometers. So there you go, that. It's got to wrap around this now. And I think what I might do is start from the center somewhere and work my way out, and then come back from the stitch and then work my way out. Not too sure. I just don't want to get too far in because I'm working with vinyl and leather, and one stretch is different than the other, and then I end up with the gaps not the same. So I'll go around now and staple it all up, and then see how I fare. But it's exciting to get this far, at least in one day. Fair amount of work, obviously. I'm about 5 hours today. I should be keeping tabs on how much work I do, but I'd say I'm probably 25 to 30 hours in so far. I mean, if you're paying yourself, you wouldn't do it, but or if you're paying somebody else to do it. But anyway, that's what it is. I mean, in the scale of things, the materials aren't very expensive at all. It's the labour. But I'll continue on and see what I can get knocked out within the next half an hour. I'll bring you back. Alright, so yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, rather than stitch 3 pieces together and then try and turn a corner and then keep going all that distance and then come back around and do the other one, I know I'm going to make a mistake there. So what I'm going to do is I've stapled in the front edge. I'll give you an idea of what it's going to look like. So I've sandwiched the 2 pieces together, so obviously when it gets folded out, that'll be the front section here. The piping, it's a little hard to do one-handed. The piping is there. So what I'm going to do is just stitch the whole front edge, run it off, and then run it off, and then I'll come back and do the sides, because I just don't want to risk. I've spent a lot of time matching these seams up. If you can see, you see how they match up? So that's really important to make sure that the seat line, the lines on the seat, especially with such bright differentiating colors like this, that you get the lines to match up. No doubt I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not an upholsterer, so I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm just trying to get it as close as possible, and close enough is good enough for me. So I definitely think if I'd try to run that all the way around and then around this side and then that way, I'm going to run into issues, especially when you're sewing vinyl to leather and then leather back to vinyl, and vinyl will go under and then leather will be on top, and then a leather piece will go under and then a vinyl piece will come on top, and then you've got the suede, and it all dictates upon the feet. So I've actually hacked this machine a little bit, and what I've done is the dog feet here, the dog teeth or whatever you want to call it, I've actually shimmed them up and they're not supposed to be that high. So I've actually adjusted this machine. There's a little bit of play in it, but I basically pulled this apart and hacked into it so that I could sew leather. So I can sew four thicknesses of leather with that machine now, and I'm pretty sure it's not meant to do that, but it works fine. I do break a needle every now and again. The timing's very important, so just like the timing in your motor, clearances and injection timing, this is exactly the same. So this has got quite a serious bit of kit underneath for such a simple machine. It's all very, very well machined. So I've adjusted the timing so that it works really good, and that's half your battle really. And then just setting the tensions, because what happens is you start to, when you run two pieces of leather, you set the tension, but then when you've got one vinyl, one leather, the tension changes, and you've got to sort of find an average, especially when you're doing leather to vinyl. So I've come up with a good average for this setup now, and I think I'm going to go ahead and I'll bring you back when I'm done.